Alrighty, my friends, welcome. I'm just trying to get stable on my Swiss ball here. Well, I'm still sitting on this thing. I could bring a chair out of the house, but I haven't. Welcome. Here we are. It is, what's the date? 20th of April here in New Zealand. It is, it's Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. Hey, Sister Kelly. Chat with Matt. Normal. This is normal. As normal as we get. Regular, I guess is the right word, not normal. It's our regular time to be here to spend half an hour or so having a chat with whatever you guys might want to know, whatever might be beneficial for you to inquire into. I'm just trying to get my framing looking a little bit better. Everything seems off level and out of skew if, but anyway, stiff shit. I'll have to deal with it. My OCDC will have to deal with it. So, yeah, here we are, 20th of April. Life continues. We're on the other side of Easter, we're on the other side of the full moon. Got a new moon coming up with a solar eclipse in like 10 days' time or something like that. It'll be next Sunday morning, my time, I think. Would make sense. Something like that. I could look it up, it doesn't matter. That's going to be fun. That's going to be fun. Not that we'll see the solar eclipse unless you are right down on the bottom of South America or even over on Antarctica, because it's sort of happening over that bit of ocean, hey Sister Michelle, between Antarctica and South America. And it's not a full lunar eclipse, solar eclipse anyway, it's a partial one. Anywho's, but energetically, always interesting times. What do you guys want to know? As far as I could see, no one had really posted a question. Gwenny said therapeutic touch. Oh, I see. Because I put a little poster up of a photo of me giving Joey head rubs, which she used to love. We used to call him a he because we thought he was a boy at first, but then she started laying eggs. So, and now she's got a partner and she's out in the aviary with the other birds, and she's much less humanized. She's a mother, and she's, you know, she's in being a bird rather than being a human, which is good. She's had best of both worlds. She grew up as Lucas's bird, so she'd sit on Lucas's shoulder and get head rubs like that for hours. And the point of the meme was, to experience the highest bliss, you need to surrender and trust. So she used to absolutely love and melt having her head and neck rubbed. But would you do the same? Would you allow a being whose hand is bigger than you to put its fingers around your neck, right? Massive big fingers around your neck and give you a head rub when it could just easily just, kill you in seconds if it sneezed. Not that we ever, sneezed and killed Joey. But the point is, we had the power to, but she still submitted to enjoying the pleasure of being cared for and loved and touched. So yeah, Gwenny, it's not just me who was able to do that with Joey. Not anybody, but the whole family could give Joey head rubs because she loved them, and you just had to sort of know how to approach her. Hey, Sister Jenny and Jill. Hello. What do you guys want to know? Because I do not have a question to go on with. It's not easy, though, to surrender and trust a bigger power, something that's more powerful than you, even though on the other side of it, at least anecdotally, there's at least potentially, there's great joy, bliss, the opportunity to really feel loved and held by quote-unquote spirit, God, source, universe. Might not feel as tactile as getting your head and neck rubbed with the big set of fingers, but the point is that presence is there, and that presence is very nurturing and is very therapeutic if we allow ourselves to surrender into that experience. But most of us resist out of fear of something more powerful than us, and we don't trust potentially its intent. We don't have good... The problem with us is we're not nearly as simple as an animal, and our intellect gets in the way, and we rationalize things. We look at the potential bad outcomes, and then try and work out the probability of that happening, etc., and then come to the conclusion, well, it's better to be safe than sorry, quote unquote. Great saying for keeping us small and disempowered and not choosing to take what is perceived as a risk, but is really a big opportunity. So, you know, us humans, we place safety, security, survival very high on our list of agenda. So do animals, but animals don't intellectualize the process. They trust their inner knowing much more. They trust their instincts to know what is dangerous and what is not, and thus they tend to enjoy the life that they're having up until the point that they die, much more than humans, who are always worried about death and therefore don't really get to relax into enjoying life, ironically. Hey, Brother Glenn. So, yeah, it's an interesting dance that we do, and part of the process of really expanding into all that we can be is overcoming this fear of death and this programmed aversion to doing anything perceived to be risky, which includes doing all sorts of things like public speaking and launching a business and all sorts of things that aren't really a risk to our physical health, although we've joined the dots and said, well, it could interfere with my ability to earn income and that's a risk to me, and then da 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 da. So we've extrapolated risk to our safety in so many ways. Our reputation is our safety, you know, so any risk to our reputation, any potential for being judged by others. And of course we have reason for this, you know, in past times and even in this lifetime. You know, when you've been judged by your peers, your community, it has quite often, especially in past lifetimes, led to very very unpleasant outcomes that did basically jeopardize your survival or even take your survival away, right? Jill wrote, it is better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all. When we promote daring to take, when we promote daring to take a chance. Yeah. And this is true, right? It's better to have lived life, and to have died in the process than to have rejected life, trying to live, trying to survive, trying to keep the biological process going without actually living, right? This is the thing. Most of us have dissociated what actually living is, and we're so contracted around this sort of scientific definition of living, basically just sustaining a biological process. And your soul did not come onto this planet to partake in simply keeping a biological process going. It's really quite boring. It's really quite boring. We're here to have experiences. We're here to experiment with all of the different experiences and opportunities and interactions and relationships that we can have. That's what the soul desires. That's why we come to this very dense polar place, to have these intense experiences. And if you try and avoid them all, you've kind of missed the point in you know, and while you can justify, well, you know, it's too risky, I don't want to die, death is really, you know, and I can't, it's hard to speak from, you know, any sort of place of authority on this, because, you know, I can't claim to have had a near-death experience and really have evidence to show you that death isn't a big deal and you don't really die. It's only your body that drops to the ground and then you continue in a different form. But I strongly believe that is the case, and I know most of you probably do too, and yet it still creates such resistance, such implications, such limitation in your life that you're scared of that process, even though you've probably done it thousands of times as a soul, probably many more times than thousands, but even as a human, you've done it many times, you know, come to the point where your body drops away and you continue. So in many ways, it can be liberation, it can be, you know, it's just a change, just like, you know, changing your socks. You might be quite attached to the socks, your favorite socks, but nevertheless, you can always find another pair of socks. Michelle has written, I'm kind of at this place you are talking about. I just came from a meeting where I found out my pension money is not enough to carry till old age. So I'm feeling unsafe, worried, and thinking, what do I do next? I need to know how to trust. Yeah, this is a huge one. And this is what so many people are scared of, and so many people restrict their ability to enjoy life because they're saving for this thing called old age. Which is such a modern idea. You know, we didn't need to do this in only 100 years ago. It wasn't really a thing. We just trusted that in our old age, our family looked after us, society looked after us, and they did, right? And they still do in other parts of the world. You see it happening, at least in traditional parts of Asia and India, etc. Old people are just part of, senior people, mature people, wise people are just part of the family unit. They always have been, they always will be. You know, of course they die one day, but they're replaced by the next generation who are becoming old, and they play their role in the family structure, in the village structure, in societal structure. They don't sort of get pushed away, left to their own resource that they've diligently saved up through their working life so that they and survive this thing based on paid help, having to come and do the things that normally the family would do around them in exchange for their company, their wisdom, their ability to help where they can, right? Still feeling purposeful in their mature years, right? In being able to impart wisdom and able to look after children to some degree and able to do some duties around the house, in the garden, etc., to their capacity. This has always been the way in our societies, even in other eras of high tech, right? We have had other eras, hey Sister Audra, of high tech on this planet, right? And as far as I can tell, and of course I can't give you good proof, but we didn't ostracize the more senior members of our society at that time, right? We didn't park them all together to while away their time. Because there's no good, you know, they can't really impart their wisdom to other old people because other old people have their own wisdom. They need to impart their wisdom to young people. That's the idea of it. But no, we let young people flounder around making all sorts of fucking stupid decisions because they're not given any good guidance by people who have the time. Parents are too strung out trying to earn enough money to both keep the family alive and to save some money for their retirement when they're put out to pasture. It's fucking ridiculous. And yet old people are sitting along with no one to talk to, and the kids have no one to talk to, right? No one with any wisdom, because we've allowed our society to become disintegrated, to allow it to become divided, where we have young people, working class, and old people, and they're all kept segregated so that no flow of information and love can really occur. And everyone feels alone, and everyone feels rejected, and everyone feels strung out, and everyone feels disempowered. It's been a huge, quote unquote, a conspiracy. So, but Michelle, how does that help you in your current situation? I think society is going to change dramatically and quite quickly over the next couple of decades. And so I would encourage you not to get overly stressed about this thing called money. Because even the financial system's in state of collapse. And I believe, there's a good chance, and I'm not trying to make predictions, but there is, more than probable chance that the financial system and all this money that's stored away in various pension funds and stock markets, etc., it could get wiped to a large degree. So to be concerned about it now just makes no sense. It's just going to keep you in stress. And to be overly concerned and think, oh shit, Matt said the stock market's going to crash, I should take my money out and stick it under my pillow, that's not really sensible either, or potentially. Well, I wouldn't encourage you to follow what I think, but follow your own gut. But the point is, whatever you choose to do, don't stress about it. Don't try and win this situation. Just trust in your own ability to have a experience here on this planet. And of course, no one wants to have a destitute experience. Especially in old age. I'm choosing to, not trying, I am getting up this live stream here so I can see the comments in easier form. So yeah, Jill's written in a couple of things, so let's talk to that before it disappears off my list. The synchronicity with your topics and my life events is just uncanny. Today I met some friends for lunch, and two of them who have been super doubtful of ideas I've been harping on for 3 years have now gone through life events that have confirmed my predictions and views totally. Yeah, well, it's you know, it has been reasonably obvious for many of us. Jill wrote, ironically, it's not a pleasant situation and I'd rather have been proved wrong, but these two both thanked me profusely for having tried to help them and regretted that they'd had to experience events themselves before believing me. And you know, not ironically, that's very, very normal. Most people are not capable of just believing another person's words. Why should they? Right? What validity do our words really have? It's nice to share words and sentiments and energies and give people heads up and warning about what we believe. But ultimately, that's not wisdom. That's just dry knowledge. And if we all were to just believe everything that we heard, to avoid all situations and to potentially get driven into other situations, but there's no real gain of wisdom. We gain wisdom through the experience. So it's not wrong to warn people and to tell people and to talk to people and to suggest what we think they should do. Not at all. That's part of their experience. They then have the regret experience after that they didn't listen. But what's beneficial for us is not to get contracted that they didn't listen and then quote unquote made the mistake. They didn't make the mistake. They had the experience that led to them gaining true wisdom, and it was reinforced. So they probably only had to do it once because you'd already given them the heads up that this was a potential, and then it made sense. This is life, and it's hard. It's hard, you know, especially when you're dealing with people who are very close to you, like your kids and stuff, and you tell them certain shit and then you watch them go and do it anyway, or find out that they've done it later and then they're in regret that they did it, etc., etc. But we all have done that. That's part of it, and other people in our lives do exactly the same. Even our parents, right? You can't tell them what to do, even if you've got some insight and some wisdom on what might serve them better. This is the thing, but there is a great... The problem with information at the moment, hey Sister Belita, is it's been so degraded by the proliferation, and I'm not saying the proliferation of the internet and media channels is wrong, but information is very cheap these days. You know, information is being projected from everywhere. And unfortunately, we've all been indoctrinated into this idea that information needs to be critically analysed by our intellectual mind. And it's just it is impossible for us to deal with the quantity of information that's being presented, especially through this limited faculty of the mind. And it's almost impossible for us to do due diligence on it all and cross-reference it and check out its validity, etc., etc. So we've become those of us who are awake especially, become very skeptical of all information that's given to us, because information is being projected from all sorts of areas, not just mainstream media and the official narrative, but a lot of the counter-narratives are complete bullshit, right? A lot of the counter-narratives, most of the counter-narratives, most of the quote-unquote conspiracy theories, while they might have a shred of potential to them, right? They're running on the idea that the official narrative is definitely not complete, so they've concocted something else that feels very, you know, it's very clickbaity. It's very appealing to the mind. It's very appealing to someone who wants to understand why they don't enjoy the official narrative. So now someone comes up with some cock and bull, you know, alternate narrative, and people just jump on it and believe it, right? And we've seen successive events of this where huge, you know, conspiracy theories have run with so little evidence behind them and so little logic behind them. And of course, that then degrades the whole information system. And I think this is part of evolution. I think this is a good thing, ultimately, that we all have to get out of this idea that we can intellectually understand our way through the world, and we can intellectually keep ourselves safe, and we can intellectually avoid problems by listening to appropriate sources of information and trusting those sources of information and following those guidelines, rules, and suggestions that various sources of information are putting out, right? And if we just follow that, then we'll be okay, follow the recipe and the cake will be baked. I think we're all getting to the point where we're very, very skeptical of that now. A huge percentage of the population has woken up to this idea that information is very cheap, and it's usually, what's the right word? Manipulative to their own gain, right? People are making money. People are gaining energy by putting out these narratives, these stories, right? Whether it's the official one, the big kahunas who are making a huge amount of money through their theories that are put out through mainstream media, but also all the little ones, all the little guys, all the little fish are doing the same, doing exactly the same. We're putting out some counter narrative that benefits them, or maybe they're just deluded and they're trying to help. Some people are like that as well. I'm not saying everyone who's putting out a shit ton of information that may be well off track is trying to profit from it, but most people are, even if it's just increasing their status and their sense of importance in the world. The point is, it's very, very hard to figure out exactly what's going on and put out information that's 100% valid, especially to any group of people. It might be valid for one person, but is it valid for the second person? Anyway, the point, and we all get caught up, was it true or is it a lie? Yeah. Oh, what a funny topic that is. So the point is we have to make space for people to completely start not trusting anything anyone's saying. Including ourselves, including me. I don't encourage you to trust my narratives because I don't know that they're true. I'm prepared to share what I feel is beneficial, and that's it. It's just coming from my feeling that this would be beneficial to share on this medium right now. But I'm not saying that it's the truth, and I'm not saying that you should adopt it and you should follow it because this will be your salvation, because who am I to say that? But what's important is that we both develop a critical mind, which is not criticizing everything, but just being willing to question what is going on, to critique the source of information, and to develop intuition that expands out beyond the intellectual process of trying to determine what's right and what's wrong, because we really don't have any good basis for determining what's right and wrong with merely the mind alone. We have to incorporate our heart and our more intuitive feelings on this, and we have to be prepared to dance through this very entangled situation where we can't really tell, and we have to be willing to trust that we can be safe without knowing the true from the lie, without knowing what's a conspiracy theory and what's actually beneficial information. All information can be beneficial because it inspires inquiry. It inspires inquiry, which is usually beneficial if we're willing to think about things, as long as we don't think about it with a contracted mindset that has to work out what's right and what's wrong, because otherwise we're not going to survive. We have to let go of trying to survive, choose to trust that we will always survive, if not in the physical body, in essence, in spirit, and to relax into moving through the world as best we can with an intent to be expansive and to have experiences that are beneficial, that allow us to be the creator being here, expressing ourselves authentically and expansively on the planet, right? So that's our mission. That's what we're here to do, to express ourselves authentically and expansively on this planet through this medium of the human body and the material world that we've built around ourselves as creator beings. Like a computer programmer who creates a game and then enjoys playing the game. This is us, right? We played a role in creating this world, and now we're dancing in it to experience it with our goggles on and our controller in our hands, right? As spirit. But we've given our avatar, this human body and the mind emotion complex, this thing called free will. So our higher self is not in complete control of what we do. We've given ourselves the opportunity to do random shit based on inputs and how we process them. So fun to play this game for the higher self. It's fun for them. The point is not to get too contracted. Jill said that's what I said, ironically. Which is probably, they had to go and have the experience. Because I felt like an observer. Yeah, which is exactly what we are. We are observers. And, so we have these conversations, these heart-based conversations with people in our lives, and we give them a form of guidance, from our heart, and they may or may not choose to heed it in the moment, but that doesn't mean it hasn't been beneficial in the long run, because even if they go and have their own experience, it's not that we failed to convince them to avoid the bad thing, it's that we gave them a layer of information that has helped in their experience. It's helped in their experience. They still had the bad experience, quote unquote, and maybe unpleasant and maybe fatal. But even if it was fatal, that level of information that you gave them and that heart connection where you tried to warn them is beneficial for them in the bigger scheme of things, right? It is a level of interaction and relationship and an exchange of love that has benefit for them, even if you can't see how, and even if it didn't prevent the bad thing from happening, etc., etc. Love is never wasted. And when we present any information or guidance or contribution to another from a foundation of love with an intent to benefit, then it is beneficial, right? We have to trust that. And it's not that we didn't try hard enough, and it's not that we weren't successful. It's like we have to let go of all of that way of measuring our success, right, based on external metrics, and allow ourselves to be much more intrinsic with trusting our intent, right? It's our intent that we're responsible for, not whether we succeed with the actions that we took. Jill wrote, they probably went through the fear meant they didn't have fear. Potentially. Yeah. And, didn't have fear to what degree, everyone has some degree of fear. Yes, by being pre-warned. It's interesting, I'm getting some comments up here that aren't appearing on my computer, and some comments on my computer that aren't appearing up here on my phone screen. Fuck Facebook. It's so random. It's so random. Look at that. Anyway, so yeah, I've got to watch both screens to get all the comments. And there's probably some that don't appear either way, and people think that I'm just ignoring them. That's what my fear is, because I don't want to be seen as, yeah, just there, it's fine. Sorry, it's just the courier. Who's bringing me a part for my spa? Anyway, to put ozone into it as well. Colloidal silver and ozone. I'm going the whole hog with my very cheap spa. Oh, okay. I wrote my comment and deleted it because spell checker mangled it. Okay. So by being pre-warned, they probably experienced stuff without the fear. Yeah, to a degree, of course. Yeah, so this is it, my friends. It's a dance. It's a dance out here, and it is an intense one, and I think it's beneficial. I almost said important. I think it's see, whenever I say important, it's always going to trigger a degree of stress in people, because if you hear something that's important, then you think you need to file it away and understand it and act on it, right? And I don't want people to do that. So I personally think that it's beneficial to recognize that it is a very intense time on the planet right now. We're in eclipse season now, officially, as we lead up to this eclipse that's going to occur with the new moon. And it will be whatever you call the second new moon in a month for us here in New Zealand. I know it won't be for most of the world, but here it'll be our third or our second April new moon. Because we had the last one on the first. I don't know if I got that right. I think I've got that right. It's happening for us on the... No, maybe not. Don't listen to me. I might be well confused with that and dates. It doesn't really matter. But the point... No, because it's happening on the 1st. So why would it be anything? It's not. It's happening in May for us. Anywho, just get back on the horse, Matthew. Forget about all of that. So yeah, I think it's relatively beneficial for us all to understand that it is intense. It's intense, and it's going to stay intense. And it's not that you should, just try and ride out the intensity till it's gone. I think the opportunity here is to find compassion, that we move through the intensity. We're going to stumble and stagger a lot. We're going to get overwhelmed a lot. We're going to have experiences that are uncomfortable in this intensity, and that's okay. It's to maintain compassion around it is a very intense time of transformation, purification, and change on this planet. And a lot of stuff is disintegrating and falling apart, and a lot of stuff will get fought over as that process occurs. There'll be a lot of, desperation attempts from various factions that are trying to maintain power, even though they're losing power. And so don't get contracted around that, and don't get too fearful of that, and don't allow yourself to burn out trying to understand it all or avoid it all. Hey, Sister Susie, just relax into the experience and the process. And even though it's going to be intense, and even though intensity generally indicates discomfort, we don't need to freak out around that. The opportunity is there to allow our capacity to deal with intensity to increase. And that's what we're all doing, basically. And so just let go of the mental judgments you hold against yourself when you seem to be not doing as well as you would like, right? Just choose not to cast a failure narrative over your experience, because you are basically growing. And it's a practice, right? Growth and improvement is a practice. And so we have to be willing to engage in that. And all practices require quote unquote mistakes, right? You don't learn to play the piano without hitting a wrong note. So, or any other instrument, or learn to play tennis without hitting the ball into the net. It's part of the game. It's part of the improvement process. And it's exactly the same with dealing with intensity of emotion and stuff that's going on around us. It's exactly the same with working with relationship, any relationship with your clients, relationship with your boss, relationship with your spouse or your children or your parents or yourself. It's a practice, and practices require us to try things that we can't do yet. Right? To have a go, to take the shot, even though it could go into the net, or we could hit the wrong note, right? And not to get so down on ourselves just because we quote unquote failed and it hit the net, or we hit the wrong note, etc., etc. But this is the only way that we're going to improve. So as the intensity is increasing, the practice is getting more and more full on. And so we're going to hit a lot of balls into the net. And it's going to seem like we're going backwards. It's going to seem like, we're trying a new piece on the piano and it's more complicated than ever, and there's a lot of wrong notes getting hit. But this is the only way we're going to master this intensity, is by fully engaging with it and allowing ourselves to have experiences that would normally be labeled as failure. But really, we just need to let go of that label and allow them to be experiences that didn't come the way, didn't eventuate, didn't have the outcome that we desired, right? That doesn't mean we made a mistake, doesn't mean that we failed. It just means it is what it is. It's hard right now. We need to be compassionate, and we also need to be willing to engage in that opportunity without contracting and trying to stay small and protect ourselves from the disappointment of failure, right? We need to be willing to empower ourselves to embrace, quote unquote, this perception of failure in a much more expansive way, and to change the narrative that we're all trying to stay safe from these disappointing experiences, and allow ourselves to embrace these disappointments in more exuberance, right? In more excitement, that this is an opportunity to really embrace. So patience is a virtue, I'm told. Yeah, I'm not real big on virtues, but patience is definitely an asset. It's definitely an asset, right? And it's definitely going to be tested. So, what the fuck's a virtue? A virtue is an attribute that is honored by others, basically, that is claimed, that has the title of right? So these virtues are is programming. So I tend to let go of the virtues, you know. I don't try and be kind. I just be who I be. And that's generally is kind. So, but I'm not trying to be kind because kind people are good people, etc., right? And it's the same with patience. It's not like, oh, I'm practicing patience because patience is a virtue. No, I'm practicing patience because patience is actually an asset for me getting to the outcome that I desire, right? So yeah. Patience is part of the process, right? We've been, and patience has been eroded as some sort of conspiracy on this planet for a long time. Well, for a long time, for many decades anyway. We've been railroaded more and more and more into this now expectation that, you know, oh, you have a headache, take a pill, it goes away, right? Oh, you know, this has gone wrong, call person, come, you know, and with texting and with fucking online messaging and all the rest of it, we're expecting things instantaneously today. We've become so contracted around this thing called time, and that time is so precious, and that time, you know, time is money, and, you know, etc., that wasting time is considered such a bad thing to do, which is basically experiencing things without having to be actually doing something productive. To have an experience of what's going on around you is considered wasting time. So this thing called patience and allowing ourselves to enjoy time passing has been eroded significantly. That's right. You know, we are just in time, immediate culture, you know, and there's efficiencies to it and all the rest of it, this just in time, and expecting things to happen immediately, and to be so contracted around getting the most out of every moment, etc., which ironically takes away a lot out of every moment. Our mental ambition to get the most out of every moment basically robs us of the joy of the moment. This is the irony of it. People, you know, we witness it all the time. People come to do something high vibrational, you know, something once in a lifetime experience. They climb to the top of the mountain to experience the top of the mountain. They get there, they take several photos, and they start fucking going straight back down because they've done it. And now they want to move on to the next thing. They don't sit there and feel the expansiveness of sitting on top of a mountain, right? They don't just sit there and take in the awe of that fucking view when you interact with it energetically rather than just take some photos of it to prove that you were there, right? But people don't. You look, you watch, right? You know, and other things, watching the sunset, same. Everyone's behind their camera and are busy typing the fucking post to send it off. Not just sitting there open-hearted, but actually allowing the beauty of the sunset to infiltrate them and to actually move them, to have a fucking full experience of it. They don't experience it at all. They capture it and then post it, right? Because it's all about, you know, because then they want to get on to the next thing, right? They don't actually spend their time enjoying it. They don't enjoy their time. They're too busy trying to cram as much into it. So this is where society's got to, and I think society's going to have a big wake-up call around this. So Jill wrote, I spent a thoroughly relaxed, not very productive Easter weekend, but I felt brilliant afterwards. Exactly, right? And you know, what's not to enjoy about that? What's wrong with that? What's to criticize about actually feeling brilliant after spending a relaxed weekend or a relaxed day or a relaxed hour or relaxed anything, right? Actually enjoying your experience of life rather than trying to be productive to save up for this thing called retirement and to avoid death, right? It's fucking ridiculous. Swinging back to where we started, where Sister Michelle said, you know, finding out that her, you know, by some sort of expert telling her she doesn't have enough money for her full retirement right into old age. So this is it. We need to relax out of all of this perception of the time and to actually enjoy the moments that we have, which are the moments right now, because none of us have tomorrow guaranteed. So to get all contracted around maintaining enough money to keep you going into quote unquote old age is ridiculous. And I'm not saying, you know, be stupid about it, but at the same time, relax and live. This is our moment to relax and live right now. And I know we might think that there's a whole heap of shit going on around us that's limiting our ability to really enjoy this now moment, and we need to fix that first. But honestly, there'll always be another hurdle. We have to start enjoying this now moment, despite the fact that we can recognize that there's things that we'd prefer changed about this now moment, in order for us to think that we could enjoy it. we have to get out of that, and we have to really choose to start enjoying our now moments, despite the fact that there's still stuff going on around us that's not quote unquote ideal or perfect. And trust that the more that we can move from relaxed joy in the moment, the more that we will actually improve the situations around us, rather than thinking that we need to fight through these situations from desperation and fear so that we can enjoy the future, right? We have to enjoy right now, then the future will mirror joy back to us, not fight against what we perceive as wrong, thinking that the future will get better. It won't, because it'll just keep mirroring back our fight against what we perceive as wrong. Anyway, again have just nattered on far too long. In my opinion, I've gone longer than I anticipated, and I do respect your investment in time in choosing to watch these, so I do choose to keep them closer to 30 minutes rather than 40 minutes. So, my beautiful divine friends, I bid you farewell for now and look forward to speaking to you again next week. Yeah, I'll be here next week. And then on the weekend after, I believe we'll have a new moon light language call at the time of the eclipse as well. It'll be about 8:30, I think, in the morning for us here in New Zealand on the 1st of May. Much love. Bye for now. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to email me, reach out, right? And I'll see how I can help you. Or check out my website or whatever and book a session. There's many ways that I can be of service to you, either with the light language or with some counseling, or just being able to listen to what's going on in your life and hold space for transformation to occur. I'm very good at doing that. So yeah, my services are open, my friends. I'm here to help. Much love. Bye for now. Bye-bye. Finish button. I always struggle with the finish button. I think it's because I use my thumb